All right, so we're really excited. We have Jesse Boone here tonight. He is a wedding and portrait and fine art photographer coming to share with you guys, talk to you about photographing people. And Jesse has quite a bit of experience. He comes from, he and his wife Nellie moved from Cleveland, Ohio, where Jesse was the founder of Finest Moments Photography. He ran for over 11 years, I believe. He and Nellie now operate their website, and their business is called Jesse and Nellie. It's a boutique wedding studio here in Missoula. So when I was reading, I was trying to I'm kind of like a stalker, so I tried to find out as much as I could about Jesse. So I kind of summed him up in like 5 different ways. So first of all, Jesse is a photographer. He's photographed hundreds of weddings in amazing locations like Sonoma, New York City, Mexico, private estates, vineyards, Oceanside. He's been everywhere. Jesse and Nellie's, both of their work has been featured on the Wedding Channel, the Knot, Brides and Grooms, Photo District News. So he's not just a local one of us Missoulians. He's been out there playing in the real photography world. He also, in the photo industry, Jesse's appeared on a network called the Shutter Network for his expertise in the business side of photography. Jesse loves, I can say since we've had lots of meetings, loves the business side of photography. So if any of you need help with the business side, Jesse, especially in retail photography, Jesse is your guy. He loves it. They also have brought this really cool thing to Missoula that I haven't seen here before, and they're stylized photo shoots that they're doing. You know about them?
No, I know about theirs.
Yeah, I think it's it's kind of their invention, and I don't know if you guys will need to have a photo shoot, but like in the winter they had a stylized shoot that was sort of like, it was embraced winter and coziness. They had like your like Montana-esque pickup, the perfect pickup truck, and you had your mittens and a hot cocoa, couple photo shoot. It was absolutely divine. And so their new photo shoot that I just heard about on Facebook, that's stylized, celebrates the idea of a vintage picnic. And so Nellie is going to show you some excerpts from the shoot. I think they only have 5 spots left in this photo, this stylized photo shoot. I think that it was $49 for this shoot. It's all stylized. They bring all of the props, picnic basket, wine glasses, books, everything you would imagine from a vintage, like if you were to go on a vintage, picnic, what you would need to pull that off. And they do these photo shoots. They have 5 spots left for that, which I think is amazing. But I just love the freshness of it. Because we all know when you have to go get your picture taken, and you're standing in the studio and you're like, okay, smile. It's so hard, which is why probably all you guys are here. So he's not just a photographer though. Jesse is also an inventor and a creator. So this man, he's busy. If you saw his desktop like I just did, he's busy. So
some of them did, I think, on accident.
So Jesse, you're going to need to explain to them when you're having your talk what the photo gift the registry is, because that's a really cool thing. I think I have it right in my head, but just in case I get it wrong.
Okay.
But he came up with that concept, and then he also invented this machine. It's called the Snapshot Bot, which is like an old school photo booth, but much easier to move around, I think, and you can tell them about that. But in addition to being a photographer and an inventor, Jesse is also a teacher. I'm really excited. He's teaching for us tonight. He's also our wedding teacher for our pro studies classes and career training this year. We're really excited. He's teaching a workshop at the Cleveland Art Museum. He just wrote an article for our blog for wedding photography. What was it called?
Great lighting no matter what.
Great lighting no matter what. Really awesome. And he, on his own website, he has both work for for his clients, but he has a whole section for photographers. So he has articles and tutorials. He's just a giver of everything, and He also is a mentor and a coach. So if any of you find that you need some consulting, some one-on-one help, and you like how Jesse teaches tonight, you'll be able to find him there. He also can teach a little bit of basketball if anybody wants to. So Jesse's also an artist. So it just so happens that Jesse has an exhibit right now up at Bernice's Bakery of his aerial photography. It's just, I've seen a few examples. You guys are going to see some. I'm definitely going to Bernice's later this week to go check out his show. It's beautiful, beautiful contemporary photography. So he's an artist, and I think that when you're this busy of a person with having all these other things go on, to be able to find that space to make art is pretty astounding. So he's all of those things. But when I met Jesse and Nellie, this is Nellie, his wife, back here, and these are two of their children, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So what it is at the very foundation, I think, of Jesse and Nellie is their sense of family. So he's a husband and a father. He's been married to Nellie, I think, for 17 years. You guys just celebrated your 17th year. So they've been together for more than half their lives. They've known each other for so long. And they have 8 children. They just had a baby. So in addition to all of these other things, he has an entire tribe of people at home. So it's just, it's pretty amazing. And then if that doesn't top it off, he's working on a major fixer-upper. So he's busy. His life's full, and yet you're here, Jesse, and we're all really grateful that you came, and he's here to teach you some things about working with people.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here. I really like this school a lot. It was one of my, when we moved back from Cleveland, being able to get in touch with Rocky Mountain School of Photography was pretty awesome, and what they're doing, bringing photographers together, is awesome. So I'm super excited to be here with you, and I hope to give you a lot of cool insights and things that will make photographing people a lot easier. She mentioned, I'm not going to talk a lot about some of those other projects, but the mini sessions is one that I didn't plan a lot of time for, but it fits right into everything I'm going to talk about with this seminar, which is creative photojournalism, photographing people naturally. So over the years, it's been almost 12 years since my first professional portrait shoot. And I remember the very first portrait shoot I did, it was actually the owner of the company I was working for knew I wanted to start a photography business, so he hooked me up with a family shoot for his family. And his mom was, I think, about 80 at the time. And his one request with the photo shoot was to make her look younger. We did that. We set up the lights. It was our first time ever shooting with the softbox. It was me and Matt, the person who founded Finest Moments with me. And we went in there. We did pretty good. I thought we got some great shots, and I sent him. So I really did make her look younger. My background's in Photoshop. Before I was ever a photographer, I was in the early versions of Photoshop, playing with photographs, and I think I probably went a little overboard with the retouching, and I took her down to like maybe 50 years old, and she loved it. And I got more reorders from that family picture than probably any of the next 5 years. That was my very first one. But so it was funny. But what I learned from it was that I didn't really want to do that again. There was something about it, like even though it was like his family and make her look younger, just something didn't feel that authentic about it. And as I started doing more photography, that was just, it would hit me on almost every session. I really kind of began to despise retouching a little bit. And that was really the rage when I was first starting out. Just old, when everything went digital, Photoshop was overused a lot, and I am one of the culprits. But so I really, I guess, kind of got on a path where I wanted to figure out a way to photograph people more naturally. As my business grew, we got to do, 2007, we did 69 weddings, and what I found myself doing was showing up to these weddings and literally having like almost like a shot list. It was almost like I was doing the same shots for the same couples every time. Didn't have much personalization at all. The photos looked great. I was technically doing a good job, but it felt like a machine, you know. So I wanted to figure out a way to make it very comfortable for them, but also kind of put in somewhat of a process where I could run my life and be able to do it consistently. So that's what I want to talk to you about, some of the things we've come up with for photographing people naturally. The mini session is really one of them. We didn't invent the mini session. There's a lot, there's photographers, it's a new up and coming thing. There's photographers. I actually got a lot of my tips from a guy named Philip Bloom, who's in Atlanta, for mini sessions. So he's a friend of mine. If you're into mini sessions, he's a good guy to look up. But one of the things we liked about the mini session concept was that we do 20 minutes. And it fits right into that whole point of helping people feel comfortable. A lot of times 60 minutes in a session, it's hard, and as a photographer, a lot of times I overshoot. And I shoot so much that they didn't know what to select afterwards. So the 20-minute mini session fits right in, and Nellie's kind of the catalyst. I'm not even stylized really at all. She's that side of the equation, so the credit goes to her on that. But as far as like creating a comfortable environment for our clients, I think that the mini session does really good for that because it's really quick. Something that you should definitely look into. So this is Missoula. I grew up in Sealy. My wife grew up in Stevensville. We moved away to Cleveland in 2004. Right now? Yes. And so we were gone for over a decade. We started a photography business in Cleveland. Shortly after moving there, before that I worked at the Missoulian here. The original Kinko's right across from the Missoulian was my first job out of college. I loved working there too, and printing. But we always kind of wanted to get back to Montana, but as our business grew, it just felt hard. We were booking weddings out at least a year in advance, and we started wondering, if we were ever really going to make it back to Missoula. We got to travel a lot. We got to shoot weddings in all the places Marcy mentioned, and the more we traveled, the more we realized how much we liked Missoula. I think it's my favorite place. So we're happy to be back. We just moved back a year and a half ago. This is Matt, my best friend. Nellie's obviously in there, and Kristen. This couple helped us start Finest Moments in Cleveland. We did that for 10 years, as Marcy mentioned. And we mostly photographed, 80% of our business was weddings. We did a lot of weddings. We have a lot of experience with that, and probably about 10% commercial, 10% portrait in that business. And then when we moved back, we decided we're going to do things a little differently. So wanted to make it real personal, so we have Jesse and Nellie now. And then I like to do fine art aerial photography to kind of stay inspired and stay fresh. That's really what I enjoy, the type of photography I enjoy. So that's a picture from the coast of Oregon, an aerial picture. I'm not going to teach you how to photograph people like that. That's kind of difficult without without a helicopter. But this is more the shots we're going to talk about here. So I just want to ask you guys a question, maybe raise your hands. When it comes to photographing people, everyone wants to get better at it. Everybody wants to make it a more pleasant experience both for them and for you, the photographer. So how many of you would say it's more, you want to get better more on the technical level? Raise your hand if it's more, I want to learn how to technically be better at photographing people. Okay, that's your primary thing. Okay, using the camera, because I definitely included some of that. How many of you are more in the boat of like, I just want to make the shoots I do with people more comfortable. I want it to flow a little bit better. Okay, so it's about half and half, and I think I'm going to probably spend a little more time on B, but I got some for both. Anybody have any other things that are a challenge to you right now as far as photographing people? Any fall in that C category? Okay, good. So we're gonna have it all covered, 100% coverage here. So I call this kind of an intro to creative photojournalism. There's kind of especially in wedding photography, there's almost like two sides of how you're going to approach a wedding. And when you get into the wedding photography business, you first thing you want to do is you want to figure out your style. Maybe even before you get into business, you want to figure out what style, what resonates with me, what do I want to shoot, what's going to make me feel good, and a lot of times you find your style by the people you look up to, the photographers that you enjoy seeing their images. But in weddings, there's kind of a polarization between the portrait approach and the photojournalism approach. How many of you guys have heard of WPJA? Wedding Photojournalist Association. You literally have to, if you have a post shot on your website, I don't think you can get into that. If you have a shot of people that looks like a pose portrait, you can't get into that association. So you'll have people who photograph weddings very portrait style. Like everything's posed. You're gonna have them tilting the chin, like this. 2 more inches that way. Okay, hold that. And then you have the photojournalists who it's just story, right? It's like I'm gonna be fly on the wall. I'm just gonna capture the story, and I'm gonna give you, what I captured. And I think you can find art in both of those approaches. But for me personally, I've always felt better about the photojournalism side. It's just always I've liked it to be natural. I don't really want, especially for a wedding. I've never felt like it's appropriate for me to create the event. I feel like it's more appropriate for me to capture what's happening in a beautiful way. Nellie's kind of that other side. She's really more portrait. She loves posing. She loves stylizing things, So I actually think it's a good fit. I think you're better off I always recommend shooting weddings 2 people. If you can have kind of both sides a little bit, I think it is a really good team. But I'm going to kind of tell you, kind of our style as it went over time was kind of a merging of the two, and it kind of met in the middle, and I call it creative photojournalism. So this is just an image from a wedding where obviously I'm capturing some natural emotion. He's not feeling awkward. The groom is comfortable with me in this picture, and that's really I want my clients, when they go back and see the photos, I want them to remember how they felt forever. Like 20 years from now, I want them to remember what were the feelings that were going through you the day. This is right after a first look. So you see pictures that are posed that kind of lack emotion, right? So this looks like a posed picture, but you can tell there's something genuine going on there. There's an authenticity to it, and that's really what I wanted to shoot for and what I wanted to develop in my style. So as we merge it, I think one of the things with photojournalism is you can kind of forget the stage, and this is the side that I've learned a lot from more the portrait outlook on shooting a wedding and on photographing people. I think that as a photographer, the more I've been doing it, I've wanted to. I think you can learn so much from like movie directors and cinematographers, because the stage is going to be one of my main considerations right away, and the first thing that I want to look for is not the background. And I think maybe the first 2 years as a photographer, probably the first thing I looked at was the background. Like, what's a cool background for this photo? Let me put the couple in a cool background. Now the first thing is definitely going to be light. Light's always number 1, and then background's usually number 2. You also, I think especially photographing people, we start trying. So this couple right here, this is downtown Cincinnati, but this is a movie theater that they went to as they're dating for 3 years. So it was special to them, and we went. We basically for their session we just walked that street. We went to their coffee shop. You'll see an image from that they have coffee together. And I think part of the stage that is really important to see is if you can find some sentimental value to it. So some of my favorite photo sessions have actually been on clients' own properties, that they grew up in, and it has some heirloom, value, sentimental value to it, and that would be this too. So usually in the planning process, I'm going to talk to my clients about the stage and what is a setting that's going to tell their story the best. That's kind of the number one. This guy right here, he was an architect. He was fascinated with bridges. So we had some old bridges in downtown Cleveland, and it just made sense. And that's exactly what he wanted. Those are the images he loved. And this couple, for example, this could have where they were doing their wedding celebration was. This is a huge hotel, downtown Cleveland, but it was at least 300 yards away. But when I walked up these stairs, coming into the reception, it was just like, that is really cool. That has a lot of dimension to it. So I'm always going to really think about, where is the best stage for this, and they were obviously a very classy couple, so we chose that. So that's kind of the first thing I think about. Not the most important thing, though, I don't think. The more important thing would be the story. When I look for a story in an image, usually what makes me happy with photographing people is if I photograph something that's meaningful, something that's relevant, and something that's beautiful. And then I do like to photograph something funny sometimes too. I think that when I have in my studio, when I have clients come in, and I always would play a slideshow for my clients before I ever showed them a price menu or anything. I play about a 5-minute slideshow with a few of my favorite songs on it, and I'd always include probably 10% of the pictures would be funny. You'll see a few of them in here. But I love like hearing them laugh, and I just leave them with the images. But just hearing them laugh, that's kind of like the first breakthrough I think with when you're photographing people is humor is a huge thing. And if you can connect with them in that way, it makes it a lot easier to connect in some of the deeper ways, like expressing love for each other. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the difference between IQ and EQ, because I think both are really important. I don't know if any of you, probably most of you are familiar with EQ. But in photography, I think we talk so much about IQ, like knowing how to photograph right. And I totally believe in being able to shoot in manual, being able to control your camera no matter what situation you're in. Like, totally believe in that. But I actually think your emotional quotient, or the way you're able to relate to people, is probably more important. At least equal. So this is that image from their favorite coffee shop, the engagement session, just after that. So one of the things I wanted to do for sure, I realized right away. First year in business, I was walking out of a ceremony. So they just come down the stairs. There's all the bubbles. I take some pictures, and then this big group of groomsmen, probably like 10 of them, come walking by me. And it's time to go do the group shot, right, with the bridal party. And I'm pretty new at this, and I hear these big groomsmen say, "Hey, how long is this going to last? When do we get to the fun part?" Because they all want to get to the reception, right? So as soon as I heard that, it was 2006-ish. I remember it very clearly. I was like, I want to figure out a way to make my time with these people as fun as anything else in the day. I want when they tell their friend about it, that it's going to be something they're going to say, that was really fun. It wasn't like the boring, stale, awkward, like stand in front of the camera, let's get this over with type of thing. So I've been exploring that for a while, like this type of thing. Whoa. Camera aimed right at you, not knowing what to do. So I think probably the most important way to do that, to get rid of the awkward, is just to get to know people. Do you guys know what I mean? I remember doing, especially engagement sessions. We used to do a lot of engagement sessions, maybe before we really knew the couples we were working with very well. And the kids too. I think it plays out huge for when you're photographing kids. Is getting to know their names, like spending at least the first 15 minutes. I started doing where I'd meet them at a coffee shop. Even if, instead of meeting them on the shoot location, meet them at the closest coffee shop, like 30 minutes away. And not only, does it, from the business side it helps, because you're preparing them to sell prints, which I think are way better than digitals. So you're preparing them for that. It's got a great business thing, but really, business aside, just getting to know them makes the photo shoots so much easier and so much more comfortable and so much better overall. I don't know how many of you guys follow Honey online. Yeah?
Totally.
There's a few. For those of you who don't, you really should, right? You guys agree?
What is Honey?
Okay. Humans in New York. I think he's got it's a Facebook account, Instagram too, I think. I follow him on Facebook mostly. But he basically goes around, I think he's been doing it about 6 years or so. His name's Brandon. He goes around and takes photos of people. His idea was, I'm going to get a catalog of all the people who live in New York. There's so many interesting people who live in New York City. He wanted to kind of create a catalog of the people in New York. He started, getting, doing interviews almost, like getting to know them before you take the photo. And then the interview part and the actual answers to his questions became as much of it as the photo. I would say his interviewing ability and his ability to connect with people is what really is amazing and outstanding. And what he has probably 20 million people following him on this adventure of photography. And I totally recommend it, because what you see from him, what you learn from him, is he invests so much time getting to know the people, and he takes one shot that isn't like technically amazing. It's not like he's pulling out like soft boxes and grids and rim lights and stuff like that. He's taking a natural light shot, and because you get the story behind him, because he's gotten so deep and intimate with them, that it's super powerful. Almost every time I see one of his photos with the story. So getting to know is a huge part. At least 15 minutes before. Another kind of cool trick of getting the ocra out with kids, I've noticed, is you're using your camera as kind of a tool to engage. And so there's a few ways to do this. How many of you guys shoot weddings or are interested in shooting weddings? Okay, so we got a few. All right, well, one way in weddings that we'll use the camera as an interaction tool is if I'm taking a picture, especially early in the day of a bride, right after she got her dress on, kind of like a bridal portrait, and there's 7 bridesmaids around. I'm going to take a really good shot, and one of the things that I love about digital compared to film is just being able to get that immediate, instant feedback, and taking that instant feedback to the bridesmaids and saying, hey, look at this photo that I just took. And then you have like 6 of them say, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And then all of a sudden the bride's confidence is skyrocketed. And all of a sudden the trust level, you're in hour 1 of the wedding, and the trust level just went up to 10. Because all of the people that she trusts the most and love her the most just said, that's an amazing photo, off the back of your camera. So there's ways to use the camera to build up this comfort level. That's one way to do it in weddings. I've noticed with kids, actually letting them see and look at the image. So the first time you take the picture of the kid, he's like, oh, what are you doing? Get that thing out of my face, There's a guy with a machine pointed at me. But as soon as you show it to him, you actually captured them, they all of a sudden want to perform for you, right? They want to spin around on the dance floor. So using the camera is a great way to kind of take the awkward out. Giving feedback, and a lot of positive feedback to the... I remember, I was shooting a lot before I really had gotten our portraits taken, me and Nellie together. And when I jumped on that side of the camera, I probably photographed 80 couples before we actually really had a professional session done for ourselves. And when I got to that side of the camera, I realized this is different. This feels different. This is kind of awkward. Like, give me some idea. How am I doing? And so giving a lot of positive feedback is a huge way to get rid of the awkward too. These guys need some feedback. I don't know what you're going to say now. The couple. It's a little bit harder for me with individuals. Seniors, but for individuals, like a senior shoot, for instance, it's huge to get that catalog of information before the shoot. So you want to have a question. We use a questionnaire where we get the information, personal information, like what kind of TV shows do you like? What's your favorite band? Where's the last great trip you went on? What's the place you want to visit the most? You'd think that's like useless. What are you are you going to help them with their travel arrangements for the honeymoon? Probably not. But just being able to pull some of that stuff out during a shoot warms it up so much faster than going in like totally cold. So I might say, I guess for instance, if a senior likes Justin Bieber and I'm having a hard time getting her to warm up, I'm going to say, is that Justin Bieber over there? And then, she's always, I'm joking with her, but I'm going to get an interaction out of it. I'm going to get some emotion out of it. And so having any of that stuff to draw on, a favorite movie, favorite book, anything like that, it helps a ton. Couples is the best because you have interaction. So here's how you prepare it, I think, how to prepare a good shoot. Maybe before I get into this, anybody have any questions or anything you want to share? Or any questions about what I've gone over so far? Am I going the right speed, do you think? Cool. So for the way we always prepare for a photo shoot, And this is, so the preparation really is going to start with a questionnaire, getting to know them. It's going to start with a coffee shop meeting for like a session usually. Or at least, if you're meeting them on the shoot location, just planning on not pulling your camera out for about 15 minutes. That 15 minutes is going to just melt away the awkwardness. If you pull it out right away, it's going to get awkward. Usually. Anything, one of the first things to ask is there anything, before we start shooting photos, I'm going to do this first. Has any of you guys seen this before? Anybody know what this is?
Expo disc?
Yes. Do you use one?
Don't have used it.
Okay. So this is huge. This is the first thing I do on every people shoot. Skin tones are like one of the hardest things with editing. You can even, no matter what camera you have, I mean, if you have the 1DX or the 5D Mark III, which is what I have, it's still, no camera that I know of today knows how to read white correctly in auto white balance. So that's why you get like bad skin tones, yellowish, bluish, you know. So this has been really helpful to me just in saving the editing time, because I put it on the front of the disc. You shoot one image into your light source. So if the sun's there, I'm going to shoot it right into where I'm going to be shooting from, and record it as a raw image. It's just going to be gray. It's like a gray card, but it's a perfect gray. And then when you take your images in Lightroom, you sync them all to that gray, and you have perfect skin tones for the rest of the session.
What's it called?
It's called an Expo disc. It's only like $50. So it's like you can an Expo disc.
EXPI.
You can use a gray card and get the same thing, but this is just so fast and so easy. I highly recommend it. If you can shoot it out of white balance, but you'll end up, and you can still get good skin tones, but you'll end up spending a lot more time on the computer. Which is when you have 8 kids and a bunch of other stuff going on, you want to get away from the computer, right? Especially in the summer, as much as you can. Anything, but this is the question. Say anything I should be aware of about, and one thing I actually have, personal thing I'll say to them is I actually like my left side a little bit better than my right side. The reason I do a little bit, but the reason I'll say it to them is because everybody, or a lot of people do have some insecurities, right? Maybe they think their arm is too big right here, or maybe they don't like their hairline, or maybe it is a left side, right side, or maybe they don't like their nose and the profiles. No, I don't want that. But a lot of times they don't say it to you. So this one question, you bring it up in a gentle manner like that, and let's just say, let's put you in the situation where Nellie usually does a lot of this little correction stuff for me, but if she sees like something looks a little bit wrong, like maybe, you know, the position isn't right, she might come and, maybe it's the arm problem or something. She might come and move that or tuck it in or do something to make it look a little bit better for me. Well, if it hasn't been addressed up front, think of the difference. If your couple or the person you're photographing said, yeah, I don't really like, you know, I don't really like this ear, or whatever. Could be anything, whatever they're insecure about. If you go over and start to cover that ear up without them telling you, it just increases the insecurity. If you go up and try to cover up their arm without them telling you, it increases the insecurity. If they've already told you, and then you go in and you say, let's twist you a little bit this way and move you, then you're the hero. Right? Because, oh, they're paying attention, they know, they care what they do. So it's huge to do that right up front, I think. The other thing, you know, that's super important in the preparation is to instill confidence in whoever you're photographing. Like, you look awesome, whether it's kids, if it's a bride, you know, this is beautiful. Find something you love about the dress. If it's a couple, you guys, I love what you did here. This is great. Anything you can do to make people feel confident is going to get the awkward out right away. So building confidence is like number 2. And then I go over basic posing. And I'm kind of like anti-pose, but there are a few things I think you kind of Nellie's like, when you talk about photographing people naturally to this at the school, you're not going to say don't ever pose people, are you? And I'm like, no, not quite. I'm not going to say. She thinks I'm like the anti-pose, which I sort of am, but there are some things you can't really be a professional photographer and just like move past. And one of those things to me is the hands. Hands are huge for posing. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gotten some images back in Lightroom where you had your couple standing like this or something. They got these, where you use like a wide angle lens and the hand was a little bit closer to you, and they got this like Freddy Krueger hand or something. The hands are a huge part of posing, so I'll usually just go over a quick basic, like this is how we want to deal with your hands. Your hands always are going to look better together and close to you. You know, guys, if you want to put a hand in the pocket like this, you know, your hand's going to look good on his shoulder. And I'll just say your hands are your most important. I actually learned that the hard way. I was, I think my second year of wedding photography, I went through this like 3-week stint where I started exploring the creativity of how to have people put their arms up on like logs and branches of trees and stuff like that, and like pose like this, and I started using their hands like away from their body, and it was like 3 weeks I got back to Lightroom, I was like, that looks horrible, what am I doing? And it took me about 3 weeks to be like, get those hands back to where they should be. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen that before, but hands in is a lot better than hands like this you're going for some Egyptian theme. So posing. Quick tip number 1 from the meerkats. These guys have one tip for us, the Eskimo. When you're posing, when you're dealing with groups of people, family shoots, big family shoots, bridal party shoots, things like that, it always looks better closing the gaps. So that's the last thing I say every time. It's like, okay, let's squeeze it together. Big happy family, squeeze it together. It actually makes them a little bit more fun. People usually will like grin and laugh as they squeeze together. Maybe they, you know, there's something about it's kind of fun for a group. But these guys are squeezed together. You always have the one too that just will not look, right? Anytime you're over four people, you get that one. I once shot a wedding in Quicken Loans Arena. It was the day that the Cavs were playing to get to the finals against the Magic. And they rented out the whole Quicken Loans. And the bridal party was 27 people. Whoa. And I had to get a ladder in the middle of the arena to photograph the whole party. And we got it. I'm taking all these shots. I'm up on top, balanced on a ladder, get all the bridal party shots done, and then this dude runs in from the bathroom. Oh, John had to go to the bathroom. Back on the left. When there's 28, it's hard to notice. When there's 4, I would know if he's gone. But 28. So hands, hands are a big thing. I like to get the hands, here on the chest, on the arms. Hands are the main thing I go over. I know a photographer that we're friends with who is like really into the posing portrait style, and she'll start with like basic poses, and she'll move to like advanced poses. Then if you're really good at that, she'll move to like triple advanced. I pretty much just say do it with the hands, and then I like to try to create interaction after that. So this is one thing. I like this type of shot a little bit more than the everyone lined up straight ahead. So meerkats number 2. This guy, he actually has something going on for him. I noticed this after a while when I look at my photos, that everyone looking this, it just got so typical and so old that I had that goal. I was like, I gotta make this way more fun than people are expecting it to be. So we really started trying to add in things that would interact with the group. So one thing we'll do with this is one here. We'll say, we'll give the people you're working with some creative liberty and bring them involved into it a little more. So one way we'll do that is we'll put everybody together. Usually I don't take time placing people like this. I don't want to take my time putting everyone in a specific spot. Usually, unless I have a really important reason to do it, usually I'm just going to say, let's go in the order you came down the aisle, or I'll say, let's just go guy, girl, and then I'll say, just do things like, on the count of 3, I want you to give me, your most outrageous pose. And just kind of let them get into it, let everybody start expressing themselves, and then kind of move them into do some motion, walking toward the camera and stuff. And just by letting them play for about the first 2 or 3 minutes, it makes the whole joy level go up. So with groups, I think adding a little bit of playtime to it can be pretty important. So these are kind of the nitty-gritty icebreakers for photographers. So there's a few things in order to build comfort level that we try to tap into, that I recommend. That if you can tap into any of these things I'm about to mention, you're going to get really authentic images, you're going to get genuine images, you're going to get meaningful, you're going to have your couples and anybody you work with are going to connect to the image in a much deeper way than if you do it some other way. I guess the way for me was either you had a template of different shots you'd take over and over again. That was almost what made me want to quit being a photographer. Mom and the daughter some time together, about 5 minutes, we would just want to separate just a little time for you guys to just talk to each other about how important this day is to both of you, about your relationship, and we get some, very meaningful images that they're going to remember forever, and it shows the love between each other versus just that. So history's huge. First date. Where you went on your first date, what is one of the funniest things you've done together, what's the craziest thing you ever did together, any of those type of questions, and this is just kind of a quick tip in the midst of that. Because a lot of times when you're photographing, like even while I'm shooting, I'm asking questions, I'm interacting, it helps a lot to make eye contact. Like if you go like, has anyone else experienced this where if you don't want to go like maybe more than like a minute without getting your face out from behind the black box? That I feel like if you want to keep the comfort level going, you want to drop it down. I'll actually still shoot like that. It's probably not technically posh, but as long as you keep the front of your lens on the same plane, so I literally will drop my camera like this. If I'm going to drop it from my face, I'm not going like this, I'm not going like this. I'm going straight down, and then I'm asking that question. And a lot of times, if I've got my focus right, I'll still hit that photo, and then I'm back up. But I definitely recommend breaking in with eye contact on a regular basis if you want to keep a comfort level going. Solitude, surprisingly, is one of the best things we like to do when photographing people. I think there's some stigma about if I'm going to go get my photograph taken, I'm expected to perform, right? Like, oh great, we have to get all dressed up, we got to get the kids dressed up, If it's a bride and groom, it's like we got to look perfect, we got to be our best. I noticed, this is another thing, it was just like born in the midst of doing a lot of photos, that I was shooting these weddings, and I'd be there for like 9-10 hours, and there's all these people coming in from like states and extended family of people that they haven't seen in 10 years, they're college friends or high school friends, and I'd leave the reception at like 11 o'clock, and I remember one night feeling like, that was cool, but it doesn't seem like the bride and groom had any time together the whole day. It was like, they were just like caught up in the midst of the rush, and they never, I don't think, talked to each other. It was just like, whew. And surprisingly, that's really common. So what we started doing is we started basically saying, the way we shoot is we want 15 minutes for just the two of you. And a lot of times we'd start that by putting them in solitude. You have to go spend like 5 minutes together, and we're just in the background, don't worry about us at all, just go take in this moment, take in the sunset, just go for a walk. And we ended up getting a lot of our favorite images from that, like 5 minutes of solitude. Engagement is a huge one. I'm going to get into more of that. Anytime you can get interaction, that's why I like shooting multiple groups of people versus one, because interaction brings out natural emotion. Interaction is what makes people come alive. And along with interaction, reunion and movement is huge. Anytime you can use movement, it makes photos come alive versus just standing people still in a nicely lit situation. So here they are. This is the list of our little tricks of making people feel comfortable in the camera. Some of them might sound cheesy, but once you've built up a rapport with them, I'm going to give you guys a few examples. And I'm not going to use all of these for everybody, for sure, but I'm going to use, every time I do a photo session now, I'm going to use the ones that I think are most suitable to the people I'm working with. Do we have a married couple in the house? Anybody? Married couple? Right there. Are you willing to be a volunteer?
Sure.
All right, come on, Trista. I actually know Trista. She's been helping me out with my software business. So come on up, guys. Come up, James. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to use my camera's back there, but I'm going to take a photo with you with this, okay? The phone, all right?
You want me to put the lights up a little bit?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Not looking.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and just stand there, right there. That's good.
Very careful now.
It gets awkward really fast, doesn't it? That's just really awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want you to come over here, Trista. Okay. So this is kind of like this is kind of our version that we do this all the time, and it's just introducing some play to the session. So here's what I want you guys to do. Okay. This I want you to just close your eyes, just take a deep breath real quick. Just relax. Okay. I want you to think about James. James, I want you to think about Trista. Okay. Just think about when you first met and how everything you've been through together and how glad you are that you found each other. Okay? Now, on the count of 3, I want you to find each other, but you can't open your eyes until you found each other. And when you do, I want you to show each other how happy you are that you found each other. Can you do that? Okay, on the count of 3, but don't open your eyes until you're touching. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, baby.
There we go. So that's basically, thank you so much. Thank
Sorry.
you guys. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So it's just stuff like that. Basically, I just want to create an atmosphere where they can interact with each other, and I'm kind of out of the picture. I'm telling their story, right? I don't know how lovey-dovey the people I work with are. I don't know how comfortable they are, and I don't want to push them into that. It's funny, when we get into some of these later ones, a lot of these were invented because of arguments we had in the studio. This one in particular, the mistletoe. Matt came in after a shoot. I was editing all the photos. I saw this photo. I was like, dude, this is a good photo. I was like, did you tell them to kiss? And Matt is more the post side. Matt was always like Nelly in that regard. And I was always like, dude, it's not right. You shouldn't tell people to kiss. People kiss if they want to kiss. I'm the photojournalist. I was just like photojournalism. And so he was like, yeah, I did, okay? And I wanted the shot, I did. We get this little argument. I was like, okay, dude, we gotta figure out a way to make this natural. Like, we can't tell people to kiss anymore. This might sound ridiculous. If you tell people to kiss, I don't have anything against you. But for me, it was like, I just didn't like it. So I was like, okay, let's brainstorm. So what we ended up doing was coming up with the mistletoe, where basically what I would do is I'd have a couple walk, holding hands, and I'd say, okay guys, for this shot, just hold hands and just kind of walk down this path here. And then as they started walking, I was like, see that tree right up there? And they'd be like, yes. And in this case, I pointed that light probably. I'd say, okay, as soon as you get to that, that's mistletoe. And that's it. So it's like I didn't have to tell them to do anything. It was up to them. They could do what they want with mistletoe. Most people know what it is. And it was natural. And it was them. And it wasn't me like making them turn into Hollywood stars. So that's one. If we had couples that were, a lot of times we work with couples who are professionals and they had worked their way to the marriage through graduate school, and they had done the long distance relationship thing. So we do things like the train, where we say, can you just get in character with me for a minute? Okay, I want you to think about last time you guys went a long time without seeing each other. Put yourself in that position. I was like, as soon as you open your eyes, he just got off the train and you're seeing each other for the first time. They could relate to that part of the story, so it's boom, they embrace each other, I'm just snapping away. I get the emotional, natural shots I want. There's a bunch of them here. These are all, it just depends on, for Nellie uses, I don't do this as much, she does more of the family stuff now, but they, like tongue twisters for kids, like toy boat. How many times can you say toy boat, toy boat? And you get the kids doing that, and you get them laughing right away, and boom, you break the ice. I mean, this stuff just makes it so easy. You don't have to go into huge one, a couple more, maybe there's a lot, I use a lot of these, but the whisper and the memory are really good. Memory, always, one of my favorite things about that is having people draw back on their memories together, especially like anniversary sessions, engagement sessions, and wedding couples. It makes the whole experience like very, very important for them. Like it's almost like you're like, for the photojournalists in you, you feel like you're documenting like a long story in like 40 minutes. If you can bring their memories into it, and they can engage with each other and laugh with each other and smile and hug about the things they've done together. Whisper is another huge one. So what I would do to kind of create some of that privacy for them is I would say, okay, by this time I'm usually pretty good pals with the groom. So I would say to the groom, okay, we're gonna do a shot. This spot's really awesome here, but what I'd like you to do, can you just get ready? I want you to think about the thing you appreciate the very most about Sarah. The thing that really knocked that drew you to her right away, okay? And as soon as I give you the thumbs up, just when you see me do this, I want you to just whisper it to her. And it just little things like that. I wouldn't tell them what to say or anything, but just create an intimate environment for just the two of them. Sometimes I would say, I want you guys to think about your three actually is kind of maxing it out. I figured that out. 1 or 2 is better, but your favorite memories together, the funniest thing you ever did together, the craziest thing you ever did together, and just whisper that to each other until you run out of ideas. And usually just get laughs and fun. And this picture here isn't that. This is where we just give them some time together. To go for a walk, look out on the water. But giving them time alone I think that makes them feel comfortable too. That, we're dealing with a photographer who's not trying to take everything over and get this over and done with. He cares about us. He cares about the fact that we have time together today. So that's an important icebreaker.
You're not going to tell us about the stagger sneak?
You're wanting to know about the stagger sneak.
The stagger sneak.
That's a funny one. I might have to give it a different name. Stagger sneak. Yes, I do use the stagger sneak a lot. I wish I had another example of them. I don't want to use them again. She already helps me out too much with my other business stuff. The stagger sneak is very good. Basically with that, I use this one first. This is one of the first ones I use because it's like awkward, breaker, quick. This is great for breaking the awkward. So in this case, I usually will do the groom first.
Usually
Good. Yeah. I usually will do the bride, and I'll kind of frame it like, all right, I want to get a really good picture of just you alone here. So Brad, can you just come back with me over here for a second? I'm just going to get a real good picture of her, and I'll kind of walk with them, and I'll get about this far away. I'll say, okay, just stand here, just like this. You're going to be kind of in the background of the image, and then I'll whisper to him. I'll say, as soon as you see me do this, I want you to try to sneak up on her and just give her a hug and get up to her without her noticing you're coming. Okay? Do you think you can do that? And then I'll say, and if you wanted to say something really funny to her, that'd be great. If I have somebody who has a good sense of humor, I'll do that. And then I'll treat the bride just like, okay, we're just gonna get this like glamour shot. This is like, okay, that's perfect. Okay, you look great. This, and then he comes up, kind of squeezes her, and then they just are laughing right in front of my camera. I didn't have to produce any of it.
Awesome.
So that's the sneak attack, the stagger sneak. Yeah, it works great. That's a good one to do right away. So this is part from the kind of that where we give them some space. We like to take kind of wider, bigger, epic shots during that time. This is like movement. Anytime you can get some movement in it, anytime you can make them feel like they're doing something fun, the people you're working with, anytime you make it more of an adventure, you're going to have a lot happier customer. The reason I put this one in here is this is always my favorite photojournalism shot. It's always usually natural light. It's fast paced. It's like natural emotion. It's like the celebration. Like everybody's there. This is one of my favorite shots. So this, and then you see at that point, Jim, my second shooter, didn't quite get out. It's definitely not. It's not technically perfect, but this is a shot that kind of inspired me, and I do, every time I watch the exit shot, I thought, that's real, that's like authentic, they're really happy there. I never have to produce anything in that moment. So if I can make the rest of my day kind of emulate that, I'd be pretty happy. So a lot of these other things I use kind of try to emulate this, the natural motion you see when people are coming out, like that. And here's the whisper. That was right after a whisper shot. You're not going to get a groom to smile like that if you're just telling him to do stuff. Not very many at least. But yeah, you get it all the time if you get her to tell me stuff, because they know each other really well. This is a shot from Nellie actually. This would be the one where we have kind of like squeeze slowly. So anyway, EQ versus IQ. I've kind of gone into the EQ. We value emotionally engaging and emotionally attaching to the people you're working with as much as using the camera. I'm a big proponent of. I think this school is great about helping people become comfortable using the camera as an artistic tool. So you can't really have one without the other. But if all you have is like, I know how to use my camera, and then you get out with people and you're like, don't really know how to interact with them. I just read an article about job seekers. That to them right now, emotional quotient is the big thing. It's like they'd rather hire someone with high EQ than IQ right now. Happy. Okay. The happiness is a big part to take the awkwardness out too. I asked Nellie. I said, what do you think is the main thing that helped me do good with photographing people? And she said, I think the fact that you're happy when you're doing it. And I do smile when I'm behind the camera. But if you're gonna say what is one of the things I need to bring with me to every session, it is happiness. It's joy. It's as important as bringing your 50 or your 70 to 200. Bringing some serious happy is gonna make your photos a lot better because it's contagious. If you're happy photographing them, they're happy. It goes both ways. One of my friends in this photography forum sent me this. So when I say all this stuff, I'm not downplaying the IQ. You got to be able to dial in your settings right and get your lighting right. I thought that was kind of funny. IQ, it's a combination of IQ and EQ. I'm a huge fan of print. I just think, I saw, kind of this age happen where everybody wanted digital images, and I was always trying to provide print. I was always trying to, at least albums. And this is an interesting stat. 3,500 images are put on Facebook every second. There's more images put on Facebook in 2 seconds than in the 1800s combined. So the digital images are just like this huge saturation of data that just sits on hard drives. So I think when I think of the IQ side of it, obviously this would refer more to knowing how to use your camera. Obviously this guy needs to know his tool a little bit better, or there's some deficiency in that. But I also think the other IQ separation is being able to deliver a finished product. Is this what your family portrait looks like? Maybe it's time so that side of it, I think, is definitely worth investing a lot of time into, learning how to take an image from start to the very finish. If you want to photograph people professionally. That's kind of a big thing. Joy, I already talked about happiness. Joy is like a huge tool, joy and happiness to bring to every photo session. Because really, part of the reason I think we saw our business succeed the way we did in Cleveland is in the last 3 years I never advertised. I was fully booked, never advertised. But I think a big reason of it is we did come to a time, we made a lot of mistakes. For over 10 years. We did a ton of stupid things. But one thing we ended up doing right was about probably 5 years ago, we did say we want to make sure every time we're photographing someone that we're also bringing some joy into their life, that we're making it an experience. That we're making it, it's like as fun as going to the movies, or it's as fun as anything else. It's something that's really a joyful experience. And I think that is a huge thing about taking the awkward out of photos too. It's like just as important as your 24-70, if you have one, or your 35. So increasing your EQ is just learning how to connect emotionally with the people in front of your camera. One way to do that is to give them a little more eye contact, pull the camera down a little more often. Obviously, talk about it beforehand. Showing images, showing when you have something great, especially showing the other people that are around. I love showing the back of my camera. I do feel like you can overdo it. It's not edited, but there is something about them being able to see what's happening, and like it does build trust. So I don't do it a lot. I like to do it definitely with the bridesmaids and the groomsmen and stuff like that. I like to do it with the parents a lot because I like to show the parents an image if I have a good image of like the family, or of a cute one of the kid. So what do you guys think is better? To go to a wedding and shoot in P mode, but have a really high EQ, or go to a wedding and shoot in manual, really well in manual, but have a low EQ? Who would say it? What do you guys think?
High EQ.
High EQ? It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, I just read an article about how someone botched a wedding because they didn't know how to use the camera. So that I was like, it's EQ, and then I read that, I'm like, no, it's both. It's IQ and EQ. I don't think it's right to. I think you need to be able to shoot more than P to shoot a wedding personally, but EQ is huge. You could literally, if you do some of these tactics and you shot in P the whole time, you'd end up with probably some amazing images on the right day, at the right time. You'd probably end up great. Whereas shooting manual, if you don't know how to interact with people, but you know your camera inside and out, you're probably not going to get as good a results. So huge. That's kind of the main thing of this seminar that I wanted to talk to you about. Last two things. One is adventure. That's another thing that breaks the ice on photo sessions. We try to do that pretty much on every session. I think even the mini sessions have an element of that. That this is kind of a little adventure. It's quick. It's an adventure we're going on as a family. With couples, I really would read into them, but we would go for hikes, around a state park together, and it's not like a photo session. It's like more of an adventure. I actually really enjoy that. That's probably some of my favorite sessions are more like an adventure type of thing, where we're going to go follow you on an adventure for a certain amount of time. But even if you can just bring any adventure into it. So we'll do things, and a lot of times movement will do that. A lot of times giving them some creativity themselves, like I said, to go, okay, everybody strike a pose. Just do the craziest pose you have. Anything like that brings that adventure of it out, makes it a lot easier. We do a lot where we just will have, like with groups, where we just have them walking together. And this was mistletoe. They're just about to hit the mistletoe. You can't see it in this one. But, and then vision. So that said, photographing people, I think the photojournalism side, where it kind of meshes is I feel a lot better about taking photos if I have some of my own vision in it. If what I'm photographing is the story I want to tell, or has something that I want to say with the photo, it's a lot more fulfilling to me. To be honest, I did professional work, lots of professional work, and like totally lost my sense of vision. Like just shot so many photos of people that was their story that I just barely knew what to say anymore. I got totally burnt out. And then I changed a bunch of things. Part of it, we raised our prices like crazy. We lowered our quantity. And we did a lot of things to make sure it didn't happen again. But one of the main things was took on personal projects. Like I decided, like during some of those busy years, I was in the basement during the summer. 1 year I had a basement office before we built our studio for 20 hours a day through June and July, just editing photos. Not even seeing my kids, not taking pictures of my kids. That year, I think I had at least 100,000 photos of other people on my hard drives, none of my kids. So your vision coming out is, I think, as an artist, what makes you happy about being a photographer, right? And that's what everybody here can do. Everybody can do that without even making any money. It's probably the most satisfying part of it. So for me, this is my daughter Alicia. Just took this image. I heard a photographer once say, "What's your favorite image?" And they said, "The last one I took." This is my last image, I think. But I took her. She's finally doing college searches. She visited the same campus I visited and decided not to go to, 20 years ago. So it was like kind of weird to hit that stage in life, I guess. But so I took this image and it had meaning to me. I started looking at this and it's like the whole time I was thinking like this image is happening for me because you think you can know what the future is. You don't know what the future is going to be. I could have never guessed I'd be right here 5 years ago. I never would have guessed that. So, and even for when people are planning to go to college and it's in important stages in life like that. So, the best thing to do, I think, about photography, and even with my own kids, these tactics, I might not use them like exactly like that, like I would with a cold customer, but I do use the same tactics. I gotta have a warmed up relationship before I take a photo of her, for sure, or she's gonna glare at me and be like, "What are you doing?" So I have to, even with my own kids, I have to warm it up. I have to create that comfort level first. So I really liked this image looking into the future, and then this series kind of really got me on my doldrums. So this is my last frame in it. This is Nina Frankel. Right about the time that I started not retouched at all. She's 90 years old now, I think. Yeah, she is. She just turned 90. So right in those doldrums, I realized I lost my vision. I gotta get something back. So I decided I was teaching media arts part-time for high school. So I had a small group of kids that I decided to take on this project where we were going to photograph Holocaust survivors. Cleveland has one of the largest populations of Holocaust survivors in the country, and they're right on the fringe of not being there anymore. They're all. When she was taken to Auschwitz, she was 16. So she was. So with Nina, I went to do a photo shoot of her, but and before I really even discovered a lot of this stuff I've been sharing today, I sat down with her and I listened to her story, and I ended up sitting in her living room. Her husband passed away. She's by herself now, and sitting in her living room for about 2 hours, just hearing her story, and it was the most amazing story I've ever heard. Some of it is just absolutely tragic. Some of it is amazingly victorious. She stood the day that the Germans decided they wanted to wipe out the Jews in the slums. They built a big ditch in her town square. They dug a huge ditch, about 20 feet deep, and they took everybody out of the slums and circled them around the ditch, and they lined up the firing squad. And she was standing between her dad and her sister in the line. And the soldiers opened fire. She fell into the pit. She saw nothing but darkness. She felt bullets whizzing past her. She heard the soldiers come up and start shooting down into the ditch after everyone was in there. Miraculously, every bullet passed right past her. And then at night, she crawled out and managed to survive on her own. She eventually was kidnapped, reunited with her mom. She eventually was taken into a prison camp, reunited with her mom. And then her mom and her escaped after 3 years and made it out to a field where they were basically passed out from hunger. When she woke up, her mom was gone. They think she found out the road she had passed out beside was a German road that they used to shuttle equipment. So she thinks they discovered her mom, and her mom didn't want them to know about her. So she just let her sleep. So she ended up, never saw her mom again. She ended up coming back, moved to Cleveland, built a house herself. Like literally a big house, like a nice big house, the same house I sat in. She was the general contractor. She's been, you know, she started a business. Just like, she had so much like determination and so much joy and so much hope after going through all that stuff. And so I literally, I just took one picture of her, just like this. And I knew I wanted to have her hands in it. Because her hands, like, it was like I was so like messed up. I wanted to like cover flaws. You know, you get in this commercial mindset where you want to cover flaws, but to me, like, when I looked at her through the frame, I was just like, this is like the strongest person I've ever met. Like, I've never met somebody, like, no pity for herself. She made it through all that stuff, and she's awesome. I like Nina a lot. But you know, that's photographing the individual. That was like 2 hours of time, one photo. So for me, it was like shooting weddings. It was like 2,000 photos, you know, a day. It was like, got so burnt out. So for me, like the fresh thing, you got to anybody, if you're gonna shoot a lot of photos, like find something that means a lot to you, a vision, and just like take your time with it. Like slow down. That's one of the things I like about film too, is it kind of makes you like step out and slow things down a little bit and think about things a little bit. So that's Nina. If you guys want, I do put together some stuff for photographers. I have a photo gift registry platform, it's a crowdfunding site. If you shoot weddings, it might be helpful. But this, if you want to, text photo love to that number. We're going to be doing a drawing. We're going to give away one of our mini sessions. You guys can give it to a family member. You can transfer it, whatever you want. We're going to do a giveaway, so we're going to draw from everybody who texts to this. And also, you'll get just some free educational stuff. We'll send out some of the icebreakers. We have just some photography tips that will come out to you via email. And you can always, there's a real person on the end of it. It's me. So if you ever have a question about any of the stuff that comes out in the emails or any of that, you can always email me back there. So, anybody have any? That was it. Anybody have any questions about the stuff I went over?
I love that long list. That was really fun.
A list?
Yeah.
I know I didn't go over all of them, but maybe if you want to know, I'll explain them all. Maybe I'll send that list out, and then you guys can contact me and let me know when you try it out.
Jesse, you have some apples.
Yes, I do. So I do, if you guys want to look at some of our that's mostly weddings. I got some of the fine art photos in that box. You're free to look through. And then the 2 albums are weddings we photographed. Yeah?
Jesse, what's in the box?
The box is some of my aerial. That would be, yeah, if you guys, I'd love it if you guys went and checked out. I have an exhibit right now at Bernice's Bakery through the end of the month. It's all aerial photographs. That's like, I haven't shot Holocaust survivors for a while. I always try to have like some fresh, like non-business, kind of just photography. And aerial is that for me now. My brother's a helicopter pilot. I hang out the window and take pictures. So I have aerial photographs over at Bernice's. Some of them are of people, but they're super small. And, the box will show you kind of a sample of that. And then the other 2 are more of our people close up with emotions. Any questions? Come on, give me one question. There we go.
Tell us about one of the most difficult situations you encountered in trying to photograph people from the point of view of not the technical so much, but just the setup or the EQ part of it.
Oh, I have a couple. You know, I would say most of the time you hear the saying, like somebody says like my fiance doesn't like to get his photo taken, you know, or hates photos, or whatever. I've usually never run into that. Like once I start, even like that doesn't even bother me anymore. Once I start photographing someone who has that statement. Now help me out here. What do you think?
Well, yesterday me and Alicia did a photo shoot, and usually when you photograph children, you always run into some child who does not want to get their photograph taken. And it's so difficult. It's like, I was shooting Alicia for a half an hour before, And I thought, this is the most beautiful spot to take photos of. And I was perfectly aligning her up with the mountains behind and the trees, and everything was just so perfect, and the lighting was great. And then all of a sudden the family came, and this little boy did not want to do his photos. And I was like, oh, forget about the background. I just need to get this kid to feel okay with me taking these photos. So for me, that I think is the most difficult, is when you have a younger person who doesn't want to get their photo taken. So we were just, kind of like throwing the ball around for a while, and what else did we do?
Definitely like having his other brothers play with him too really warmed him up because he knows them and he's comfortable with them, where us, he doesn't know. And so that made him feel like definitely warm up.
Yeah, I would say that type of stuff is way more difficult than like weather or lighting or anything like that. I photographed a wedding once where they clearly were not happy with each other. I don't know what happened, but there's nothing I could do about it. So that.
Have to use them.
Oh yeah, but then usually those will be great to war about. This was a little different. I don't know why, but yeah, that most of these things will move through the attitude stuff pretty quick, warm people up. Yeah, the worst I've had is just if I try to go into like if I'm rushing. If I'm like, if I'm busy, too busy, I'm like, let's just show up and do the shoot. We won't meet them for coffee, or we won't take the time to get to know them. Then usually it's a lot more difficult. Yeah.
What's your favorite lens to use?
My favorite look for shooting people is the 70 to 200, but it's not. For some of this stuff, it's not my favorite. Like if I'm doing the interaction stuff, I usually use a 50 millimeter. 1.2, because I like to be a little bit more engaged in like giving the instructions, or like what we did with Trista and James. Like the 70 to 200, I might be a little too far out of the picture for that, but I use that one. We like that one a lot. Like if you zoom in all the way, like it definitely gives you the best bokeh of any lens that I've used. But that's a great thing about having two shooters. Like we've always been done two photographers, so we always want that lens running, zoomed in. And I'm usually finding myself more as like the director of it and like doing a 50 millimeter or a 35. Yeah.
So when you have two shooters, do you say I'll do this and you do this, or are you both getting the same pictures of the? Making yourself clear with both.
Yeah.
Can you explain more of that?
Yeah. So we like to separate it out. Every scene, kind of like a movie. Like if you look at movie scenes, they do tight, middle, wide to bring you into the story. So we'll usually, obviously, whoever has a 70 to 200, they're in charge of tight. So their responsibility is you're going to get the tight shots. Whoever's got the wider lens is always going to get the wide, and usually the middle. So we want to get a tight middle wide of every scene we're in, whether it's the ceremony, the prep, the reception, and anybody who has a 70 to 200 is always in charge of the tight. That's how we divide it up. And then obviously for ceremonies and stuff, we have positions that we are just used, that we know where we're going to be at every time now. Any other questions?
So you have a lot of yours are movement. So when you know that they're going to be coming down the aisle,
Yeah.
like are you already picking what you think you want your shutter speed at?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I covered that a little bit actually in the blog article, I think. Moving down the so I'm gonna usually. Are you talking about coming up the aisle with like father-daughter coming up the aisle type of thing?
Or like in the end when they were coming out and all the, yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the toughest shots of the wedding, is coming out of the building. Especially the building you're talking about was like a dark, big cathedral. So you're usually ISO maybe like 800, 1000, and then all of a sudden you're jumping out and you're 100. It's like blasting sunlight. So that's one of the toughest adjustments to make. I always can manually control my ISO, but that's the one time I go to AB. I go out of manual for that one moment. And I usually will always, I won't shoot wide open on movement shots like that. I'll be like 3.2-ish usually. So I'm still separating them from the background a little bit, but I'm not going to lose focus on that. And then obviously your shutter speed is probably the most important. You know, I'll always make sure I'm over, for a moving shot like that, over 320. I found out the hard way with aerial photography, it's more like 1/800. Because there's so much movement. Like my first time I shot out of a helicopter, I was like, I'm used to shooting moving people. Yeah, but they're not going like 90 miles an hour with the rotor going. All right. Well,
Thank you.
yeah.